Mangwana ni mwalelepo vukenjani class vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning on the 1st of April. Now, across the African continent, stories of resilience, deception and defiance unfold. In the UK, a shocking exposé uncovers a ruthless immigration scam preying on desperate dreams, while in Kenya, second-hand clothes flood markets, threading a tale of economic survival and environmental cost. Health experts vie for leadership at WHO Africa, and South Africa stands unflinching against global pressure in its pursuit of justice at the ICJ. But it's in Zimbabwe where the pulse quickens. Geza's day of rage ignites a nation as the nation holds breath. Planned protests grip the streets, yet many stay at home watching, waiting as President Mnangagwa reshuffles power. And we're going to be showing you all of these stories on DSTV 285, GOTV 25, oneup2.com, and Network Media Hub on YouTube. Talent Gore will be bringing us that comprehensive report from Zimbabwe. This is Africa Good Morning. Top story shortly. Let's get into our top stories on Africa Good Morning. BBC undercover reporters exposed a network of rogue UK immigration recruiters, revealing a complex scam in which foreign nationals, mainly from Nigeria, were charged thousands for fake or non-existent jobs in the UK care sector. At the center of the scheme was Dr. Kelvin Alaneme, a Nigerian psychiatrist who ran Career Edu, and Nana Akwasi Ageyamang Prempe, a UK-based recruiter, both of whom illegally sold certificates of sponsorship to desperate job seekers. Victims, like a Nigerian man named Praise, paid over £10,000 only to arrive in the UK and find no job awaiting them. The scam involved fake payroll records to create the illusion of employment, allowing migrants to bypass visa requirements while recruiters profited. As authorities cracked down on fraud in the care sector, some scammers pivoted to construction and IT industries, exploiting new loopholes. In response, the UK Home Office has revoked over 470 sponsorship licenses and announced stricter measures to combat visa fraud, including prioritizing job seekers already in the UK before recruiting abroad. The World Health Organization has announced the candidates for the position of Regional Director for Africa after the death of Tanzanian public health expert Dr. Faustine Ndugulile days before taking office in November 2024. Tanzania has put forward Professor Mohamed Janabi, a renowned cardiologist and health advisor to President Samia Suluhu Hassan, as its candidate. He faces competition from three French-speaking West African candidates: Togo's Professor Mustafa Mjiyawa, Guinea's Dr. Mohamed Lamine Drame, and Cote d'Ivoire's Dr. Michel Yao. Dr. Boirema Sambo, proposed by Niger, withdrew his candidacy. The election, set for May 18, will determine the next leader to steer Africa's health agenda. South Africa remains resolute in its pursuit of justice at the International Court of Justice against Israel, despite mounting external pressure and potential diplomatic repercussions. Minister of International Relations and Cooperation Ronald Lamola reaffirmed the government's stance, stating that South Africa will not compromise on its foreign policy, even as the United States reportedly freezes funding in response. The case, which accuses Israel of genocide in Gaza, has further strained relations between Pretoria and Washington, but the ANC leadership remains firm, emphasizing its commitment to human rights and constitutional principles. Meanwhile, political tensions continue to mount at home, with the Democratic Alliance challenging government policies and the selection of South Africa's next ambassador to the U.S. sparking debate. As the legal battle unfolds on the global stage, South Africa's diplomatic strategy faces a critical test balancing its moral convictions with geopolitical realities of international relations. Kenya's bustling Mitumba markets hum with activity as traders sift through bales of imported second-hand clothes, a business that has now placed the country ahead of Nigeria as Africa's largest importer of used apparel. Despite local textile industry advocates pushing for revival, the influx of mitumba, ranging from designer jackets to children's school uniforms, has only grown, fueled by affordability and a lack of viable local alternatives. While neighboring nations like Rwanda and Uganda tighten restrictions to boost domestic manufacturing, Kenya's recent tax cuts on imports have made second-hand clothes even cheaper, raising concerns about the country becoming a dumping ground for foreign textile waste. The government walks a tightrope between maintaining eligibility for AGOA trade benefits and protecting its struggling cotton sector, while consumers caught in the debate continue to choose mitumba as their most accessible option. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. When we return, we talk to Talent Gore about the protests in Zimbabwe and other stories. It's time to talk to Talent Gore. She brings us the Zimbabwe report. Talent Wamukase. Tamuka Hedu. Now, yesterday, protests were called by Comrade Geza, who's currently a fugitive, and these protests were against the extension of Emerson Mnangagwa's term and against corruption and corrupt individuals. How did they transpire?
Well, yesterday, people decided to stay at home. Most of the businesses were shut down. No one was in town at around 8 a.m. when we were going around assessing the situation in the country. Most schools did not even open. Major businesses were closed down, and people were not seen in towns. They decided to stay home. But Geza had called for the citizens of Zimbabwe to go into the streets and demonstrate against corruption, against President Emerson Mnangagwa's term extension to beyond 2028 to 2030. But in most of the towns in Zimbabwe, you could find policemen moving around. They're saying that they want to ensure that there is peace. No one was to gather in any parts of the country. A group of people tried to gather at Harare Magistrate Court at the Robert Mugabe Freedom Square, but they were displaced by the police, and police were actually throwing tear gas to those people who wanted to demonstrate. So as for Geza, some people may say that he achieved what he wanted, but rather people just decided to stay away. They didn't go into the streets to demonstrate or to protest because they fear for their lives. I think most of the Zimbabweans, they have trauma from what happened during the August 2018 elections, in which the military shot people. Apparently 8 people died during that time when they were protesting in the streets. So yesterday people decided to stay at home. Most people didn't go to work, and children were not parents did not send their children to school yesterday. So Geza later announced that he had achieved what he wanted, and he said that this was just the beginning of what is to come for President Emerson Mnangagwa. He says that President Emerson Mnangagwa will not be in power for long, as this was just the beginning. But he said that the citizens should not protest today. He said that there were plans for there were bombing plans. Apparently, according to him, there is someone who is alleging that has bought bombs. They
Bombs.
want to bomb certain areas and blame it on Geza so that he's labeled a terrorist. So he said that citizens should stay away today. They should not participate in the protest,
Protest.
but rather he's going to come back tomorrow. Yes, he's going to come back tomorrow and give us a way forward. He's going to tell us, he's going to tell the citizens of Zimbabwe on what to do next. But he said this was just the beginning. The worst is yet to come. So we're just waiting to see what is going to happen next.
All right, Talent. Before we continue our conversation, we do have a clip of Comrade Bombshell Geza's message.
I want to thank you, Zimbabwe, for heeding our call to take action. I've been in the streets of Harare this morning to assess the situation. The streets were empty, absolutely empty. And I received similar reports from other cities. This is very encouraging. You have sent a clear message that you want Emerson and his corrupt cabal, Zigananda, to go. This is the beginning of a series of events to send you packing. And we want to assure you that he is going in the shortest possible time. Now, what's next? I've decided to call off the protest. This is because I've gathered intelligence of an evil plan. President Mnangagwa bought explosives. He wants to bomb certain targets tonight and blame it on me. This will be done to label me a terrorist. We had our peaceful protest today. Now, let's call it off for now. A statement has already been made. I'll come back to you on Wednesday with a very, very crucial announcement. This will change the direction of things and take us to a higher, new level.
So that was Comrade Bombshell Geza, who is currently a fugitive wanted by the police for undermining the president, which would seem he also does in that video. He does want a push for Mnangagwa to be removed from power, and he's the one who called for the protest yesterday. So now, Talent, I understand that there are some reports of some journalists allegedly being arrested.
Yes, there are reports that 9 journalists were arrested yesterday during the protest. The police hasn't said anything to that effect, but we are quite sure that 9 journalists were arrested who were filming the protest yesterday. And also they were victims of tear gas which were being thrown by the police. These are only the people that we know that the police arrested. Most of the protesters were protesting yesterday. They were actually throwing stones at the police vehicles and they were running away from the police. So it was a cat and mouse situation between the police and the protesters. But most of the people yesterday decided to stay at home. It was just a handful of people who were brave enough to go into the streets and try to demonstrate. Most of the people said that they didn't want to be a part of it. Some are saying that this is an internal fight within ZANU-PF, so we do not want to be used like we were used back in 2017. So most of the citizens are saying that we're going to stay away from internal ZANU-PF fights. We don't want to be a part of it. They should deal with their issues on their own, and they should not involve the citizens. As you know, Geza is a ZANU-PF Central Committee member and is vying for Vice President Constantino Chiwenga to take over from President Emerson Mnangagwa.
All right, it seems like our connection with Talent Gore was lost there, but she was giving us an update on the protests which did or didn't happen in Zimbabwe. So these protests were called for by Comrade Blessed Geza, and the Zimbabwean government called the protests illegal, but at the same time the government expected business to go on as usual, and that certainly was not the case. I believe Talent Gore is now back with us. Now, Talent, I have to ask, do you feel like anything will happen today? Are people still going to stay away from the schools and the businesses? Are people waiting for Geza's next update that he says will be on Wednesday?
Well, I believe that today people went to their workstations and schools. Apparently, I stay close to a school and I saw some children going to school. So today it seems as if it's a business as usual. Unlike yesterday, most schools, they had their gates closed, but today it seems it's a little bit different. We'll just wait and see what will happen tomorrow. We believe that Geza has something he has to tell the citizens, but today it's a business as usual. We'll just be going around checking the situation in the Harare CBD and around schools to see if children and actually business people went to work. But yesterday it was a total shut down, but today it seems like it's a little bit different. People have actually gone back to their day-to-day lives. So we'll see what will unfold tomorrow as people are waiting for Geza to tell us the next move.
And just for the sake of our audiences, part of what gives Comrade Geza's words weight to Zimbabweans is that he's been a part of the ZANU-PF Central Committee, which essentially has been the most powerful entity in Zimbabwe. It was actually the ZANU-PF Central Committee which decided it was time for Robert Mugabe to go after 3 decades in power, and so it was. And now it seems like one of them is now calling for Mnangagwa. So it's very difficult for Zimbabweans to ignore what Geza is saying, because he has been not just in the system, but at the pinnacle of the system, and to others above the president. That's how powerful the Central Committee has been. Of course, now it's fragmented, with Geza being considered a fugitive. But one thing that has been consistent is that it seems like the Zimbabwean National Army has its own chain of command, and that does not always include the president. Thank you, Talent, for bringing us the news stories from Zimbabwe.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
It's always good to have you on Africa Good Morning. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to return with economic news.
My teacher once said, there are no straight lines in nature. And to this day I feel like, wanna bet? My quest for straight lines has become an unexpected adventure, navigating uncharted territories with a sense of wonder. Even though finding a straight line is nearly impossible, embrace the challenge. Choose your destination and conquer with the new JQ J7, born from the wild.
Yesterday, Namibia Brewery's managing director Valdemar von Leers detailed the key initiatives implemented to streamline the business following its acquisition by Dutch brewing giant Heineken.
And that's what was the case during the first 6 months. So it was really a case of bringing the people and the cultures together, And secondly, it is actually housing the full portfolio of brands we have now under the NBL company. Now, all that was achieved by September 2023, and I think we shared that last year already. So, I think really landing that part and then focusing on the synergy realization in terms of cider and wine production, which is the biggest part of the synergy, the local production, is what occupied a lot of our time during those first 6 to 9 months. And I think through that we were really now able to land a business that from about, call it March, April last year, was really geared for growth, and we could really focus again on our customers, right? That takes us to the next stage of really thinking about how are we going to strengthen the market in Namibia, all right? So I think as NBL, especially on the commercial front, we had significant changes in early during the integration. So we built a completely new sales team that really focused on delivering the Heineken ways of winning, as it's called in the market, and really bringing a structured approach to commercial execution.
Moving on and staying with Namibia, newly appointed Kavango East Governor Julius Hambuka has pledged to revive green schemes to tackle food insecurity. Speaking at his handover ceremony yesterday in Rundu, he stressed using local resources to benefit communities first.
With the natural resources at our disposal, I'm confident that such a situation can be reversed to bring back the region to its glory, yes, when the green schemes projects such as Shadi Kongoro, Chitemo, and Uvungvungu had a positive impact on the lives of all residents of the 2 Kavango regions and other regions beyond. The time has come for us not to work for the sake of working, but rather to work to meet a agreed target to improve service delivery to the inhabitants of the region. It is unacceptable and face starvation while we have adamant fertile land and water to grow and produce food for our own consumption. My appeal is that the green scheme projects must first produce what is consumed locally and then for export to other regions. People at the doorsteps of this project should have access to the food produced in their surroundings.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. Throughout the broadcast, we spoke comprehensively to Talent Gore about the Zimbabwe protests, which are being led by Comrade Geza, who's currently a fugitive, according to the police in Zimbabwe. And naturally, this has tested the grip on power that President Mnangagwa, the president of Zimbabwe, has on the country. Businesses came to a standstill yesterday. No one went to school. Some journalists were arrested, and that seems to be the usual menu when it comes to Zimbabweans observing their constitutional right to protest. But Africa Good Morning also brought you several stories from across Africa, including the WHO's new appointment and Namibia seeing the focus on green hydrogen being revived in Rundu. From me, Ashwin Bedi, and the Africa Good Morning team, thank you for joining us. Swera Jakanaka.